Welcome to another edition of the Elevator Pitch Showdown. Just do a quick video test, audio test. How are things today? Are we podcast ready? We're good to go. Sound good. All right, let's warm up a little bit. Let's just
Hi, Ash.
Hi, Manchi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's get a little bit of the just while we get the last minute stragglers coming in today. Let's warm up a little bit. Get our fancy music going. One second. Share sound. Here goes. All right, let's get started. Do another quick sound test. Christine mentioned we're okay today. We're all right. We're good.
We can hear you clearly.
Loud and clear. Just to double check, we want to use. Am I going to be just do a quick sound test again? Testing.
Rajiv said that he cannot hear, or they cannot hear the audio of the video you played earlier.
Yeah, I know, because I was just testing a couple of things. As long as they can hear me, that should be fine.
Okay.
So, are we going to do it? Are we going to just in terms of elevator pitch, just a sound test? I just want to just double check. Testing 1, 2, 3. How's my voice now? Can I do my elevator pitch sounding like a robot today? Is that okay?
I like the other one, the chipmunk.
The other one? Okay. What if I, okay, point noted. We'll stick to that. And we'll make sure that that happens. So welcome everyone to another edition of the Elevator Pitch Showdown. We're excited to have some of our esteemed guests from the Hyper Accelerator and from the audience too, if we have a little bit of time, come and pitch their ideas today. I know that we have a specific order of founders that are coming in today. And so I just want to thank our production team joining us today. Menchi and Christine, thank you for all of your help. And to kick it off, let's invite our first startup today, right? Let's see if we can map out. And we have the order, right? We have the order in terms of the just are all the founders here today? Just want to make sure we have everyone here. Jared's here first to kick off. Menchi, we'll get you off of mute. We'll get Jared going first.
Sorry, Jared is here, so he'll go first.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to kick off with Jared, and let's get. And what we will do is let's post the order. I'll just do that right now.
Hang on, Ash. I'll do that for you.
We should make sure it's done. I've already done it. We'll get. This is the order today. I know that there may be a slight adjustment today in terms of the time, right, Menchie? Because I know that there was a couple of reschedules. I think there's 4 companies
Yes.
today that we're going to do, right? So, well, what we'll do is order is in the chat. Everyone else, feel free to give feedback, provide the insights, the guidance, the inputs that you feel are going to level up, provide value, and let's have some fun today. Okay, so we're going to kick off, all right, and get going. And Menchie, anything else that we need to cover before we start? Just double checking anything else that we got to get going, but
No, we're
double
all
check
good.
while they're here, and then we can preempt it so the pace will move
Yes.
a little bit
So
faster.
Felicia couldn't do the pitch today because she has
No problem.
problems with her throat.
Oh,
So Salvador will pitch instead of her. I'll post the new schedule in a few
yeah,
minutes.
perfect, awesome. So we got that going, and we are ready to rock and roll. Um, let's kick off. We're going to kick off with Jared joining us today. Jared, good morning and good afternoon, sir. Just so the audience knows, where are you calling from today?
Calling in from New York City.
All right, from the East Coast, from New York, New York. Welcome to the Elevator Pitch Showdown. As you know, we have created this platform to allow our founders to have an opportunity to pitch their idea to the universe, but also as a means of improvement. There's always elements of your elevator pitch that you can evolve, develop, and improve. So we're excited to get some time with you today and chat about your platform. How the process works is I'm going up an elevator, as you can see. For those of you that are listening just via audio, we have a virtual elevator that we have, and what will happen is this elevator is 1 minute long, right? So it goes from here and it's 1 minute to the top, and basically we want to time the session, because every elevator pitch, being able to have a clear, concise message is important. And so we're gonna drive that. And most importantly, let's try to have some fun with the experience. Okay, Jared, are you ready to go?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, so we'll get it going. And Christine, when we hit the 1 minute mark, if you don't mind, just you can show everyone, how you raise your hand so that they know that their time is up and they should be aiming to conclude. Okay, so you can see Christine's hands there. She will raise her hand and we'll go accordingly. All right, so let's get started. All right, I'll introduce myself, Jared, and we'll get going. Are you ready, sir?
Yeah.
All right, Jared, my name is Ash Singh. I am a New York City real estate developer turned startup investor. Tell me a little bit about what you're working on, how you're changing the world, and how I can help. Go ahead.
Sure. So we all know that medical workers have long, exhausting hours in hospitals, especially during COVID. But what most people don't realize is that a large portion of these workers are flat out burned out. With 24-hour shifts, a consistent lack of sleep, and a large dependency on caffeine, this is hardly surprising. And with hospital call rooms that aren't maintained and cleaned, there's little opportunity for doctors and nurses to take a rest during their shifts. Our startup Nappr is going to change that. Nappr is a marketplace that allows users to find and book nap spaces on the go at nearby homes and businesses, directly from their mobile devices. This will allow medical workers to get a much needed power nap right near their hospitals, whenever they want to and at the venues of their choice. Studies have shown that even a short 20-minute power nap can boost alertness, improve memory and performance, and most importantly of all, help prevent burnout. And for somebody whose job it is to help save lives every day, this is obviously critical. Our revenues are generated from 2 channels, a 20% commission from every transaction, and a membership model where users can pay a monthly fee to get extra perks and benefits. We plan to launch this year in New York City, and we are currently raising a $600,000 seed round that will help fund some product development, marketing, and additional personnel costs. So what do you say? Let's work together and help save the world one small nap at a time.
Excellent. Fantastic. That was great. Thank you, Jared, for the complete story, right? I mean, I think you did a great job. So let's get some feedback on Jared's pitch on the Nappr platform. Okay. You know, as we always say, trying to get as much feedback is important. I feel like you've structured your pitch really nicely, actually, Jared, right? You know, the story arc about the problem, what the solution is like, and you know, kind of where you make money, okay, and also like what you know, you did have an ask at the end, right? And I tried to parlay that into a question around, like, I did introduce myself as a real estate developer, right? So that was a little bit of a hint, right? Because there are probably people in the real estate space that you probably want to collaborate. But let's get some feedback for him on the chat, right? Any feedback, I'm happy to relay as well. But you know, let's talk a little bit about Nappr, right? We all have heard about the nurse burnout, right? And you know, Jared, as you were pitching with everything, with every pitch that we always try to look at, we always try to elevate, right? Pardon the pun, because it is an elevator pitch, but elevate it. And part of this journey is for me to get the right, you know, from an investor standpoint, ask the right questions, right? I want to make sure that I have all the right pieces there, right? And you know, obviously the first question is around, you know, how active do you think that this business will be? You know, when you think about a hospital, right, and people wanting to get a bit of a break, right? There's part of your business model that I feel needs to be addressed, because the napping location probably needs to be very close to the hospital, correct? Right?
Yes.
If they have a defined window of time, right? And remember, with all startups, there's always the option to do nothing, right? The option to do nothing. And so I'm wondering, like, the unit, the value proposition around the location, right? Because they would probably need to be like literally next door in order to because they only have a certain bit of time off. They need to go, they need to kind of get into their nap mood, right? Everyone has this kind of process that they need to get into, you know, the dark curtains. I've started during COVID, I've discovered that napping is a bit of an art, a bit of a science, right? So you need to, like, you know, sometimes it might even be during the day, but walking there, getting into the mode of getting ready for sleep, and getting into that sleep, making sure the sleep is powerful and impactful so I can get back, right? And so, Jared, my mind, and again, great pitch, but I want to just continue the process and level you up a little bit more, is how do you talk to me about that, right? The user journey, right? I wanted to know a little bit about the user journey, and how do you ensure that it's accessible in the way that they're going to use it, and when they're taking their naps, it's the best power nap they've ever had, okay? Because we don't want to just provide naps, we want to make sure it's the ultra, you know, hyper power nap, right? That just kind of changes their lives, right? So tell me more about that, Jared. Go ahead.
Yeah, the places would have to be nearby their hospitals, within maybe a few blocks. And if you look at Manhattan, we have a lot of hospitals here, and there are apartments right on top of them. So it could work where, you know, these people are listing their homes a block or two away, and then the doctors and nurses only have to walk maybe a minute or two or 5 maybe to get to them. How do we ensure that they're good? There is a feedback system similar to Airbnb. So if you don't like your nap, you can leave bad feedback and say why it was bad, which is going to be important, right? People need to be able to rely on this. They don't have a ton of time in these shifts. They have maybe half an hour to spare. So it is crucial that they are able to get to these places quickly and get in and be able to rely on the cleanliness and the bed and get back to their hospitals. So yeah, there's a lot at play here and a lot of things have to go right. But I think if everything is checked and vetted and we vet the spaces ourselves to make sure that they're good, I think it'll go a long way into making this work effectively.
So you've addressed the location perspective and kind of the Airbnb components. Have you thought about how to optimize sleep, right? And so, Jared, I'll give you this example. I mean, having met you now, I always try to like understand the mechanics of what the startups are doing, what you're working on. So I went to this place called Sleep Country Canada. It's like the largest like mattress distributor, retailer in Canada. And I went there and there is a difference, you know, the pillow that's being used, the mattress that's being used. There's all these different kind of human elements that require you to be able to adjust and change to optimize sleep, right? So tell me about the sleep optimization. Have you thought about that? The audio that you're listening to, the firmness of the bed, the type of pillow, all these, you know what I mean? Like I didn't really know this. I've just been sleeping on the bed that my wife tells me to sleep on, right? So I don't, you know what I mean? But tell me about this. Tell me about the sleep element.
Yeah, and everyone has their own preference, obviously, when it comes to sleep. Like you said, the firmness of the mattress, the pillow is important, how dark the room is, whether you have an eye mask. I use an eye mask every night, and you know it's tough for me to sleep without one. So yeah, I think if hosts are accommodating to this and they're willing to buy these things for their nappers, I think they'll get more feedback, more positive reviews for doing that, and we can encourage the host to do this. We can tell them, this is typically, what people want when they take a nap. They do want a dark room. They want, a relatively comfy bed, a good pillow, and we can also have the app filter by these things too. So, certain bed type, size, things like that, amenities. So if people really need stuff like this, like white noise or whatever they prefer, then they can filter by that.
Got it. So Jared, we have some fun and interesting questions from the chat, if I may, in no particular order. There is this, there's the obvious question around why are hospitals not doing this for their staff, right? Why are hospitals not providing clean beds for their staff, right? And I think you know the answer. I think you brought this up in your pitch. You did address this point. But just tell us a little bit about that. There's also a question around scale, right? And location. There's a great question here, which does come to mind. How are you going to prevent it from becoming a hookup place between medical staff? Okay, so that's interesting as well. So, what are your thoughts on some of these points, Jared? Go ahead.
Sure. So it's really interesting that hospitals don't clean and maintain these rooms for their workers. You think that they would, because it would help everyone, the hospitals included, but they just don't. I think based on the feedback that we've heard from doctors, hospitals don't think that their workers would use them, so they don't clean them. And because they don't clean them and maintain them, they're not used. So it's kind of a catch-22. And every doctor that we've spoken to pretty much just said, yeah, I won't even step foot in a call room. It's just too dirty, or it's just not maintained, and I don't want to do it. So, yeah.
Would Nappr eventually even consider managing that space for the hospitals and providing like best in class nap pods, for instance, in that space?
We'd consider it. And actually, a few doctors suggested that we do that because some of them said that they couldn't leave a hospital in the middle of their shift and they would use a call room if they could.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another idea we could consider.
Jared, another question that's going through my mind is when I think about this, I want to know where your bigger picture is, right? And so I guess two questions that are going through my mind. Number one is, how much more profitable is it for somebody to leverage the Nappr platform versus running a typical Airbnb? Because what my view is that when you run an Airbnb, you have a 1-bedroom apartment that you're renting out for, say, 24 hours, okay, to one person. Suppose from a New York, Manhattan perspective, that's 800 square feet of space, right? Not big, but what I understand for you with this NAP environment, with the right type of utilization and occupancy, you could have like, 20, 30, 40 people within 24 hours, all occupying maybe 100 of the 700-800 square feet. And it would be more profitable. Can you tell me a little bit about, can you compare and contrast Airbnb and a typical Airbnb in this?
Yeah, so Airbnb is obviously overnight stay. And I actually think a lot of Airbnb hosts would try this out because if they have a free day in their schedule and they don't have anything booked, they can just list on our platform and get additional revenue from Nappr. I don't know if they would list us instead of Airbnb because Airbnb is pretty profitable for them. And if they only get 2 or 3 naps booked on our platform, then they're probably making more on Airbnb versus us. But I think it's a good complement for them to Airbnb so that they can fill in their unused spaces.
Because I'm thinking about even the way you structure the rooms, Jared. The rooms would be different, wouldn't they? The room structure would be different. Like when I think about an optimal, like let's assume that you get it going and you have a couple of people with Airbnbs that are using your platform. But once you kind of hit that demand curve where you need to have like, you know what I mean? Correct me if I'm wrong. Like I'm actually thinking, Jared, like the sleep pods in Japan, right? Or Korea, right? They do this already, bringing that to the American market, right? Where they go in, they have literally a sleep pod. It's kind of like, I don't know if you know the sleeper trains where you just go in, jump into your pod, you got your screen, you got your bed, you got your, and you walk in and there's like 10, 15 different pods that you can jump into, right? You got like a firm mattress, you have like a firm pillow, you got this sound, you got that sound. This one smells like mango because some people might want to sleep with the mango smell. I don't know, right? But you get what I'm saying, Jared?
Yeah.
I think the configuration, so I'll explain where I'm going with this, Jared. I enjoyed your pitch. I think this is a product that people need, but I wanted to visualize the big picture on this, I wanted to visualize how real estate developers are going to be embedding and building this in. And we start off with the medical community because it's obviously needed and they can afford it. But then as, when I'm thinking about what Nappr is, Nappr, I feel like this could be so much more. This could be that kind of the mental, like the break that you need. Okay, because we are in this world. I look at it a little bit different, Jared, if I may. I look at it like everyone needs sleep, Jared. Everyone needs sleep. We're in this world where Netflix is competing with sleep. Okay, Netflix is there to compete with your sleep now. Okay, what does that mean? When you binge watch Netflix, the next day you're sleepy, right? And yes, you can go and you can have your morning coffee to get you going. And then what happens is you have that afternoon, you know what I mean? And this is something that everyone faces. But just if you think about like gig workers in general, okay? You have nurses and all these other professionals, but gig workers, people that are working late night shifts, Uber drivers that are driving like, 20 hours a day. They need a quick, relaxation, restaurant workers, people that are working at the 24/7 convenience store. All of these people, Jared, could use your service. Is that correct?
Yeah,
know?
and big picture, that's what we're aiming for. We're starting with medical because physicians and nurses tend to be burned out more than anyone.
Sure.
But we do want to open this up to all the people you mentioned, and also people on airport layovers. They're generally just like sleeping on chairs right now,
Sure.
so
Sure. Yeah.
long
Well,
haul truck drivers.
Depending on the airport, right? Like in Canada right now, they're not even sleeping on chairs, but that's a different conversation altogether.
Yeah.
But Jared, do you get what I'm saying with this? Right?
Mhm.
When
Yeah.
when I visualize the big picture, right? I look at this as like, a way where a builder will think about the fact that they are going to, just like, I'm building this mixed residential commercial space, and we're going to have a dedicated Nappr space available, right, for the community. And it's structured and set up in a different way, Jared. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's optimized, right? Like I see that soundproof, audio proof, like little, where you could have like 10, 15 people sleeping, napping at the same time, right? Remember, we're in New York, right? In New York, we're used to being connected and like, sharing spaces. Jared, does that make sense?
It does.
And so the idea of being able to build the process through, because you're looking for money, how much are you looking to raise?
600,000.
Okay. And 600K is going to get you to where? How many locations are you going to have?
It's going to help us launch for the most part. We have a prototype in Android and iOS, and we need to do a little more development on those. We'd like to hire an additional engineer, and we have some other administrative costs.
Okay.
But
how many locations will you have with
that? Well, initially we're using the Airbnb model where we don't own the spaces.
Sure.
I would like to have our own spaces eventually. I think the brick and mortar model is good for what we're doing. So we're not going to have any spaces ourselves. We're not going to own them at the onset, but
yeah. So, but with your early stage of funding, is there a certain number of sites that you would like to have, like, a certain number of Airbnb players that are going to be coming on board for this round of funding?
Yeah, I would like to have 20 to 30 spaces and 1 or 2 hospitals on board for the launch.
Got it. And you've identified that in the Manhattan area. You know where they're going to be. You have all that stuff mapped out, right?
Yes, we're currently looking at several hospitals in Manhattan. We haven't narrowed it down to 1 or 2 yet, but there's several to choose from here. So we're still in that process.
Got it. Now, and my last question, Jared, for you, and again, this relates to use of funds, right? As we know, like in the current market, right, when we're chatting in August 2022, the markets are down. And so, one question that's going through an investor's mind might be, how does Jared and the Nappr team identify locations, right? Because real estate is about location, right? So tell me a little bit about your thought process on that. Go ahead.
On where the locations would be?
Yeah. Like, how do you select, like with any successful real estate play, right? For instance, you always find that the person was really good at identifying location. They have a Midas touch in that sense. How are you going to identify? Suppose 600K is given to you today.
Yeah.
How do you know where how do you identify it? Because you mentioned hospitals, but is there more to this to ensure that there's a little bit more, you're reducing the risk of the early stage of what you're doing, right?
Yeah. That's a good question. Location wise, we're really just trying to hone in on areas near hospitals. So, it's obviously important for what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know if the funding will drive that, at least in the seed round, but we are going to use some of it for marketing. So
Okay. We'll see where that goes.
marketing near those hospitals, making sure that people are aware that this exists.
Got it. All right, Jared. So again, some great feedback coming through the platform. And as you can read in the chat, right, there are several people, including Drew Kenning, who runs a startup that can actually help you identify good real estate, by the way. Okay. So there's a couple of connection points happening right now live, which is beautiful. Jared, I also would like to introduce you to a developer, and we'll take this offline, that has reached out to us that is looking to build, condos near medical facilities here in Canada. And so I do want to connect the dots for you with him as well, because I think it would be good for you to prototype. So that's part of the journey with the Elevator Pitch Showdown. It's also about educating the broader audiences and seeing if there's kind of connection points that are happening, right? And so what I'm going to do is, Jared, would you like me to pitch your idea back to you?
Sure.
Right. I'm going to pitch. You're looking for $600,000 in funding. Your goal is to ensure that your spaces are, between 2 and 3 blocks from a hospital currently, correct? Right?
Yep.
Driven those components there. What I'm going to do, Jared, I think your pitch was actually pretty good, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the big picture. I'm going to elevate it. Okay. Right. So to make this interesting, part of this journey is just to listen. And sometimes we get great pitches and then I have to try to level it up. But I'm going to talk about the core problem and how this is going to impact the broader scope, and see if there's, just to kind of give it a little bit of a different spin. Jared, is that okay?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, Jared. So you get to be, anyone you want, and I'll do the same 1 minute, right? So we're hitting the top. You can introduce yourself and we'll get started.
Hi, I'm Mark Cuban, and thank you for pitching to me today.
Hi. Hi, Mark. My name is Ash Singh, and I'm part of the Nappr team. As you know, over the course of the last 2 years, the COVID pandemic has created a lot of challenges in the medical space. We have a lot of people that have been overworked, a lot of nurses and doctors that are overworked and are hitting burnout. And this is creating a big challenge in the healthcare space overall. And we decided to look into this and see how we could help. Now, there's a lot of things that people do in terms of managing the hospital, but the most important thing that we discovered is people just need to take a moment and grab a nap. And shockingly, this is currently not available in the current, in most hospitals. There's no place for people to rest and relax. So the Nappr platform is the next generation Airbnb platform that allows anyone in the medical community to pull themselves out of their 36-hour work schedule and get that power nap. We've looked at creating these spaces at a 2 to 3 block radius from their location. We want to make sure it's simple, quick, and easy, and we optimize their sleep using some of our technology that's going to make sure that they get the best nap possible, so that they can move forward in their work, reduce burnout, and ultimately help the populations that they're working with. I'd love to chat to you about the launch strategy. We're looking for $600,000 of investment. And through this investment, we see this not just impacting hospital workers, but gig workers, people driving Ubers, every single person that is looking to kind of get that extra nap in. We think that we can revolutionize and create that next generation micro sleep, power nap, Airbnb platform of the future. Would love to catch up over a coffee and chat more. Thank you. All right, Jared, that was my pitch. Okay. I went a little bit long, but I wanted to weave in the secondary bigger picture element to that, you know, the big picture, right? I want that to come out in your pitch, right? I want the, you know, I want the world to rethink about spaces. And I have the visual in my mind, Jared. It's so obvious to me where this could play, right? And like, you know, yeah, wherever there's a street corner where there's a coffee shop, there should also be a Nappr outlet, right? You know, why not, right? You know, and I want that to come out right in your pitch. It seems audacious, okay, but it can happen, right? And this idea, imagine like, you know, I'm going to go for my coffee caffeine fix, but you know what? Like I've already had a coffee this morning. I actually just need 30 minutes, right? So instead of going for a coffee and a cigarette, which is what a lot of people do in New York, you see them getting their breaks, they can, you know, pop in and get their 30-minute power nap at one of your outlets, you know? And so that's kind of where my thinking is. But thank you for your time. Look forward to seeing how we can continue to help your journey. There's a couple of messages in the chat for you, Jared. Thank you very much, right? And we look forward to being part of your success. Have a wonderful day. Cheers. Let's continue. Let's continue. Let's hear from Drew. I think Drew was here, right? Is that correct, Menchie? Let's hear from
Yes.
Drew.
Drew from Manor, Straits. Hello,
Yes, Drew is back in the house finally. Good to see you,
hey
Drew.
Guys, how are you?
Good, good, good. It's been a while since we've chatted, Drew. Great to have you back. Real estate now has evolved and changed, I guess, Drew, over the last 6 months. Things have you know,
a lot changing.
Lot changing. So people are obviously very interested and keen to know how real estate tech companies like yourself are evolving and changing. So really excited to hear from you, because it's always good to kind of see how startups evolve. And I suspect, Drew, that you know, Manor Straits has even more value to play in the ecosystem based on the fluctuation that's happening in the market right now. So what we'll do is, Drew, you know, I will introduce myself, and let's hear about your platform, right? We'll do our elevator pitch training. Are you ready, sir?
Let's do it. I'm in.
All right. I'm going to hit the top of the elevator. We'll have our 1-minute pitch timeline, as we always do. I'll introduce myself. Drew, just so everyone knows, where are you calling from today?
So calling from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay. All right. Let's make this more Chicago instead of New York today then, okay? We were just in New York, but we'll kick off, all right? So we're hitting the top of the elevator, okay? I'll introduce myself and we'll get going, all right? Drew, my name is Ash Singh. I am a real estate developer, very famous for working for building real estate for high-end clients, including Michael Jordan. I want to talk to you a little bit about what you're building. I heard you have some really good intelligence in the real estate space. So tell me about what you're working on and how you're changing the world. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for your time and your interest in Manor Straits. You mentioned on the last pitch, location is a huge factor to real estate. And that's absolutely true, but we're trying to prove that, you know, data can solve multiple different indicators and point you in the right direction. So what that means is, you know, Manor Straits is a real estate investment platform powered by machine learning. Mm-hmm. We're on a mission to connect top investors around the country to those off-market deals. So we spent the last 2.5 years aggregating data in every asset class, you know, initially starting or focusing on mid-market, the $5 million to about $30 million level, and partnering with family offices, buy-side focused, you know, the investment shops that have the capital and can move quickly. And then we connect them directly to those off-market motivated sellers. So
Mm.
we're tracking over 500,000 property owners in a growing proprietary database and verifying these through our analyst team, and then presenting that through our platform in one streamlined tool. To date, we've raised $1 million, and we have 9 strategic partnerships. We've sold 23% of the company, and these strategic partnerships have opened up those family office connections, capital placement connections, and our business is purely based on 2 revenue streams: subscription and commission.
Mm.
So buyers are signing up for our platform, paying a monthly fee, gaining access to that data transparency and that off-market pipeline. When we successfully bring a deal to the table and they close on an off-market transaction, we're then paid that advisory or commission fee. We're on target to reach about $600,000 in revenue by end of year, purely from that subscription and commission. We're looking to raise on our next raise about $3 million, selling 20% of the company, really trying to scale the business and take advantage of this opportunity, within this marketplace. Last thing I would mention is you mentioned the market changing. We are somewhat recession proof because we're using data to unlock different value no matter where you are around the country. We can find you a deal that's hidden, either off market or on market, depending on, no matter where you are in the country.
Got it. Excellent. Drew, thank you for that. Let's get some feedback for Drew on his platform. Manor Straits. So questions that are going through my mind, Drew, as you were pitching, and obviously you've gone through this journey before. It's obvious that you're an eloquent speaker and you have the right elements covered. My question to you as you were going through this is, you mentioned that you're monitoring 500,000 property owners. Is that correct?
Correct.
As an early stage startup, right? Tell me about, like, that must, it came across to me. I'm like, wow, he's monitoring all this stuff. Like, this idea of off-market deals, right? It comes across to me as incredibly hard to do for an early stage company, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would assume off-market deals. So I'll just tell you where my brain was going while you were pitching. I'm like, okay, it all sounds interesting, but how do you actually stay on top of off-market deals, right? And when I think about off-market deals, I'm thinking about the typical property owner who might not be as digitally savvy, right? It might be somebody over the age of 50, right? At least, okay? And so I suspect there would be a lot of phone calls required, right? A lot of trust building, right? Like, I'm thinking just in my limited capacity, we own property in 3 countries, in Singapore and in Toronto, for instance. Getting access to the local deal flow in Toronto requires you to be in market and stuff like that. So
Absolutely.
without divulging any of your trade secrets, right? You know what I mean? Like, but I kind of wanted to know how you're doing it. It's part of the secret sauce, which I wanted to know. The pitch was great, but I wanted the secret sauce elements to come out, right? Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've focused a lot of attention and development around the machine learning models. Basically our whole database is built around a propensity to sell. Each owner is ranked based on their data, whether it's, over the age of 65, or they haven't paid taxes, or, they haven't paid their mortgage. That's all available information. It's just hard to find. So to your question about, tracking a mass amount of owners, we're very opportunistic on the buy side, and we've rolled this out very selectively to certain markets. And what that means is any investor criteria, for example, we have clients in Southeast Florida, we have clients in Chicago, Denver, and then Texas. So we've chosen markets very selectively based on that buyer activity. Can they close in 15 to 30 days? Can they make that offer and connect with that owner? And then to your other point, we've spent a lot of time setting up brokerage networks. At the end of the day, we're a digital brokerage, and we are trying to partner with boots on the ground. We're never going to bypass a deal that's come to market within the last 3 days, or it's going to market. Our main focus is being that acquisitions as a service team, to provide value to our investors or our clients. So we do have boots on the ground in every market. We've partnered with brokerage shops. We've partnered with other investors and management teams. We're really just trying to get the inside look to, can we buy that property quicker than the other person?
Got it. Got it. Got it. It's very interesting, Drew, using publicly available data to drive intent to sell, right?
Mhm.
Looking at their age, because it's clever, Drew. Does that make sense? And I feel like in the real estate space, because, real estate plays have been pitched over and over and over again, right? And we hear a lot of the different elements, but I feel like there's a cleverness, Drew, in terms of your approach that I want it to come out. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's kind of how you win in real estate in a way. Is that fair to say? I mean, you have a lot more experience, but you have to be clever. You have to be able to drive those insights and opportunities that don't currently exist, right? And so the idea of, because I think on the buy side, it's not that difficult, correct? Drew? You can find out who's got money, right? Is that fair to say?
Exactly. Every website, every investment shop posts their investment criteria on their website. Here's what we're looking for, and here's where.
Yeah.
I worked for one of the top developers in Chicago for a few years and learned very quickly, if you have the top track record, if you have the most capital, and you have the reputation of getting deals done quickly, you will be sent the top deals. In fact, about 23% of top investments based on cap rate, based on your return, they never go to market. Those deals are never seen. They're sent pocket listing under the table to those top buyers. We're trying to change that. We want to get our clients in front of those sellers quicker, saying we can buy just as quick as the guy locally. Even if I'm in Chicago, I can buy in Lake Tahoe tomorrow.
Yes. And I feel like but finding the intent of people to sell, that's your secret sauce, right? From Manor Straits is being able to get publicly available information, right? Person's age, you said, whether or not they're in strong, financial health, their maybe their family size, Drew. You know what I mean?
There's a scary amount of information that you can track, and all of that is being refined through this machine learning to build this proprietary database, and each owner is at different stages. Today they might not want to sell, but 3 months, 3 years from now, as we get bigger and bigger, we can have a national database, and it becomes a matchmaking play.
Got it. And as you're building this, is this like an American B to B play? Or is this open for, people in Singapore, for instance? As you might know, Singaporeans are one of the largest real estate owners in the UK right now, right? And we live in this global world. So, Drew, in 2022, where is Manor Straits going? Where is it going to be?
Yeah, we're hyper focused on our current clients, our current markets, building that database, and really building that reputation of having that network of buyers that can close quickly. But long term, absolutely. I mean, our platform's designed to facilitate capital movement or capital placement, right? If there's investors in Singapore or Hong Kong, those family offices that have a ton of capital, but they don't have the time to weed through the bottom deals or the top deals, or they don't have access to those American real estate deals. So we can provide that.
Got it. And I want to talk a little bit about dollars and cents, Drew, because that's for another thing out. So when you buy off market, for those of and this is, I guess, Drew, why the rich get richer. Is that fair to say? Right?
Very fair.
We're all listening and learning from Drew. Some of us might not have the wealth or to be able to be on the buy side on Drew's database. But how much of a win do they get, when you have these off-market wins, okay? Because at the end of the day, the person that's going to invest in you is going to be looking at, the year over year yield or, value. When you get an off-market deal like this, what is the instant value that the person can derive? You know, because typically when you go into real estate, I'm going to buy this, and looking forward, you're going to see some value, right? Every year. But because of off-market transactions, I'm assuming that there's this magical instant number you get to, like an instant bump in value because it's not on the market, right? So tell me a little bit about with your transactions, how it's going to work.
So, you know, it's a multi-answer, I guess, depending on where the market is. Every property in our view is available for sale, right? There's just a price that owner will accept and our buyer will actually offer. So depends on the investment criteria. As far as a cap rate or a return threshold for each market, it's completely different asset types. I can use a few of our case studies as an example. We bought an off-market deal in Ohio, middle of nowhere. Bought at you'd expect a 10% return each year.
Yes.
We're under contract for a 115% return in 11 months to sell. And that's just because we bought off-market, undervalued. You know, we increased the value through renovations. Within less than a year, we have 115% return. Bought off-market, sold off-market. Another example is an investor out of Aspen. He's looking to do a 1031 exchange. He had 12 days to move the money. We found him a deal that was actually on market that he never knew about. So he bought it in 12 days, and it was at about a 12% expected return on your money year over year. So just making those connections based on your investment criteria to your question. You know, there's investors looking high and low for different deals and different return thresholds. It could be a long-term hold. It could be a short-term hold. But we can facilitate that.
Got it. Because I feel like this clever component, you know, in your pitch, and because I mean, it was a great pitch, but I want to emphasize the cleverness of, because it's a platform play, right? And I look at it, Manor Straits, I always try to dumb it down in terms of what you have like supply and demand, right? It's like a dance floor at a club, right? The reason why they have ladies' nights and ladies drink free, or ladies are allowed to come in free, is because you need to fill the dance floor with, you know, something interesting, and then the men, you know what I mean? So supply and demand, right? And I'm sure you have the unit economics to kind of make all these components work, right? My last question to you is that you're not making any recommendations on the properties themselves. You're just creating the space. Is that correct?
As far as recommendations, what do you mean by that?
Because you're going to bring all these off-market deals. You just have them compiled, correct? You're not actually making recommendations. You're just, this is as it is, right? These are all the portfolio and stuff that we have. Is that correct?
So we actually took it a step further. So we give you every tool you need to underwrite the deal, to basically actually place the offer, DocuSign's integrated, you know, all in one platform, from sourcing to identifying and ranking those opportunities, and then tracking your off-market pipeline. So it's a full scale from sourcing to close.
Understood. Got it. Fantastic. All right, Drew. Okay, I have one last question. Who else is doing something like this, Drew? Are you the only guy that's like structuring stuff like this? Because this is, you know, the way you've approached the problem and the model, and, you know, obviously we know this for, you know, there's platforms like PitchBook and stuff like that, but are you the only person that's looked at it with this approach with real estate? Seems
No,
like
I'd be worried if we were the only ones. You know, I like to think that if there's competitors in the water, it's, you know, boats rise together. So there's a company out of Texas called Offered. They're doing incredibly well. Similar concept. You know, there's all the data players, but it's very early in the prop tech space, and it's really exciting time for everyone to grow together. But as far as our concept, purely focusing on buy side machine learning database, it's fairly new in the space.
Got it. And so your customer, your primary customer, is that analyst at a family office, right? The people that have the cash, they would look at this and say, hey, you know what I mean? I want to leverage this. Yeah.
The justification is, you're paying us a monthly fee, but you're not hiring an in-house employee where you have to pay benefits and you have to, have
Sure.
that office for. We're outsourced acquisitions team. We take the grunt work out of sourcing deals, and you can move your capital way much faster and efficiently.
Got it. Got it. Love it. Okay. And so let me see if I can. Would you like me to pitch this back to you, Drew?
I'd love to.
I want to emphasize the cleverness of the model, Drew. Okay, right? I want this to be a play that is not just a real estate play for investors, but anyone in the right mind, right? How do you create, people talk about marketplaces. Okay. So I want to pitch it back to you from a marketplace component and emphasize the cleverness of the marketplace. Okay. Because this will allow you just to be able to talk to a larger breadth of investors as well. You're looking to raise $3 million. Okay. You've raised $1 million already. You've got, you're generating some solid rent, over $500,000, $600,000 of revenue. Okay. So there's some momentum there, and we go from there. All right. Are you ready?
Excellent.
So Drew, you get to introduce yourself. You can be anyone you want. Go ahead.
Hey Ash, I'm Ken Griffin from Citadel. I'm moving my office down to Florida and moving our whole team. We need to find a better location. I'm interested in your software. How can you help us move?
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for making the time, sir. My name is Ash Singh, and I'm part of the Manor Straits team. We've actually created a very interesting platform. I know you've probably heard about marketplaces today. We have discovered something really beautiful, and that is that most of the big deals that happen in the real estate space actually happen off market, right? It's all about who you know. And I'm sure you've seen this over the years. Somebody knows somebody, and through that journey, they get some sort of unfair advantage. And what we've done is we've invested the time, energy, and effort to create a platform to allow any family office that's interested to buy, to be able to leverage our platform, because we have been able to use publicly available information to create intent to buy. We've actually driven a process to create momentum and interest for people to take and transact offline. And so we're looking to actually take this platform to the next level with our Manor Straits platform. We've built it up now. We have several family offices, and we're looking at over 500,000 property owners that are looking to sell. And we've been able to create this marketplace now, and we've had our first $600,000 of revenue. Our goal, though, is to be that definitive source of truth, early access to deals, and give the buyer that instant win, right? That instant win. It's not just about kind of the current market. It's being able to come on, and instead of having that 10% year over year, we aim to drive that. And because it's off market, hopefully drive it to a 15 or 20% year over year return on what they're doing. I want to chat to you more. I'd like to show you how it works, and maybe even show you some of the deals that we have available for your market. Would love to chat more over a coffee. Thank you.
Excellent. That was spot on. I appreciate it.
No problem, Drew. I want, when I think about the investment play on this, and what's really fun for me, Drew, when I do elevator pitches, I start to really think about when I'm pitching the idea. Sometimes I'll give you some feedback after the pitch, because I've now internalized what you're doing, right? It helps me internalize. And what I feel is that this play around marketplace, and I know what you're doing is really sexy, off-market deals and all the other components, but and family offices, right? And the family offices in Toronto looking for American real estate, and Singapore. I mean, we'd love to connect those dots, and we're going to make that happen for you. But this idea of just making sure that you have the most recent available data, right? And being that source of truth, right? Similar to like what PitchBook does, for instance, right? It's that source of truth. And when they look at it compared to all the other people, you've won there. I think is really powerful. I also feel like when I think about what you're doing, as I was pitching, I was feeling that the existing incumbents that are really big, the pitch books of the world, might even look to acquire a company, right? You know, but then, but the other element around this is what is your big picture, right? The other element around what you're doing is if you build all these components right, you know, and you get to where you need to be, one might ask why, you know, could Manor Straits themselves eventually build their own fund? Do you know what I mean? And keep all the, you know what I mean? And then suddenly you're competing with the, you know, the big real estate plays. So, you know, part of your journey, and I didn't know which direction you wanted to go into, but there is an avenue to be said that if you have the best deal flow and you have access to capital, maybe you can become the biggest real estate, maybe Drew Kenning will be the largest real estate owner, right? In the United States. Does that make sense? But does that make sense? Right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think to your question on long-term vision, you know, it's important to note that we're not purely focused on family offices. We're trying to create that network of either early amateur investors trying to, you know, break that learning curve, right? We're offering the tools of finding those deals, not having that brokerage network, not having the models. As far as long-term vision, the deal-making ecosystem of just real estate in general is massive. We can connect the dots between, you know, not only, you know, large capital, but also brokers, property owners, appraisals, lenders. You know, I see it as somewhat of a diamond. We've talked a little bit in our other classes, but yeah, we're trying to be that deal-making ecosystem and facilitate the multiple levels of the transaction. Yes.
Fantastic. So, Drew, thank you for joining us, right? Really interesting stuff. And I think you know, let's help drive the fundraising components around what you need to do. And look forward to being part of your success, Drew. Fantastic stuff. Thank you for your time today.
Likewise, guys. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. Let's continue on. We are going to hear from, I think it's, do we have Play Sports here? The Play Sports team. Let's.
We are moving on with Worldwide Internship Philippines.
Let's do it.
Founded by Cristina.
Let's do it. Hi, Cristina. Hi, Cristina. Let's get Cristina on board. Who's after that? Menchie, is that it for today? Or
yeah, that's it for today.
Awesome. All right. So we're gonna keep it. It'll be a little bit tighter today. I know we're jigging a couple of
yes.
of schedules and stuff like that. We have Cristina joining us today. Let's hear from her. Today has been interesting. Really interesting conversations. Keep the feedback coming. You know, it's these depths of conversation where you suddenly get a different inflection point, and you can kind of see with all the conversations we're having, we are opening the doors, opening the opportunities for us to create inflection points, different ways of thinking, all in hopes of elevating the founders. So Cristina, good afternoon and good morning and good afternoon and good morning, good afternoon and good evening. I did that in the wrong way. Nice to see you, Cristina. Just so everyone else knows, where are you calling from today?
I'm in Austin.
From Austin, Texas. Welcome. We are here for the Elevator Pitch Showdown, and we have a beautiful opportunity to listen to your pitch today. As always, we'll hear your elevator pitch. We will get feedback from the crowd, and let's do our best to provide that element. We'll talk about your pitch. We'll talk about your startup in general. And if you would like, I'm happy to embarrass myself and pitch your idea back with little or no preparation. All right. So Cristina, are you ready for your pitch?
As I'll ever be, I guess.
All right, let's do it. Yeah. You never know when you're gonna walk into an elevator, and we go from there. Okay.
All right.
All right. All right. My name is Ash Singh. I just moved to Austin, Texas because I'm tired of paying all the big taxes in California. I'm a successful venture capital investor. Cristina, tell me about what you're working on. I heard you're working on something very interesting. Tell me more. Go ahead.
Well, good morning, Ash. How are you today?
Very well.
Again, my name is Cristina, and the virtual training lab gives access to hospitality internships by pioneering high-quality personalized training that is cost-effective by leveraging VR and AR technology along with a machine learning AI tool. Hospitality includes 4 verticals: hotels, restaurants, cruise lines, and airlines, and is powered by 300 million workers worldwide. We offer a new economy approach through a unique integrated platform that has a menu of in-person internships, virtual internships, and customized training for companies. We are completely dynamic in how we can match the right intern with the right company. We have 3 different revenue streams: fees from our face-to-face program, subscriptions from our virtual program, and hospitality companies looking to optimize their employee training. We are starting in the Philippines because it is a natural fit. The founders are Filipino, and the local talent is culturally adaptive and English speaking. 14 out of 100 Filipinos work in the hospitality sector. Currently, we count 27 of the top universities amongst our current partners and have generated about 500,000 in revenue. The Philippines is our power play, but our model can be replicated into other countries as we grow. This gives us a limitless pool of talent to pull from in order to fill the chasm of available jobs in the hospitality industry, while giving people a living wage and a way to support their families. We are asking for 1.5 million to develop the platform, the tech, and for marketing and operational costs. Thank you for your time.
Excellent. Cristina, thank you very much. All right, let's hear from the audience feedback on the virtual training lab. That's the product name, right, Cristina? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, because you have your kind of holding company as well, but the virtual training lab. Okay, and so it's for me. I enjoy, first of all, thank you. It's obvious that you've practiced and you've put thought into your pitch, right? So I felt it was very well articulated. Where my mind was, Cristina, and again, it's just every investor looks at things a little bit differently, right? Where my mind was, there was something that you said that really sparked my interest, but you didn't speak a lot about it afterwards, and I wish you did. Okay. You said something, you started off on like virtual training lab, AR, VR, machine learning, just to kind of help the process. You talk about hotels, restaurants, flight and cruise industry, right? Okay, big market, okay. And then you talked about this concept of a virtual internship. And then you didn't come back to it at all, okay? And I'll tell you where my mind was. We all know that in Southeast Asia, for instance, there's a great resource of English-speaking talent that can fill the roles, right? That's one component. But I wanted to know more about the technology and the platform, right? The problem that you're solving. And for me, it's like, in the hospitality space, how many hires are bad hires? How much does it cost to have a bad hire? And how do you leverage your platform to be able to train, level up in a safe environment, right? So the idea of a virtual internship is beautiful because you can go train, let's talk about the Philippines. You could train like 100 Filipinos in the Philippines in the comfort of their own homes and do it in a virtual manner to suss and get a sense of them before you fly them out to the your airport or your cruise or your hotel and all of that stuff. And I feel like what your value to me is that when people want to hire somebody, it's about finding the right person that's going to do the job well and they're going to stay on with me, right? The headache of hiring is it the right person and are they going to stick around? If that, that's, correct me if I'm wrong, especially
absolutely
in hospitality. And I wanted that to come in. You get what I'm saying? So let's talk about that, Cristina.
Okay.
Let's talk about how leveraging your platform you know, I'm a restaurateur. Let's use restaurants because everyone understands restaurants, right? Not everyone understands cruise or flights. Let's talk about a typical restaurant in Singapore. Okay. They're looking, they need to find more waiters. How do they leverage your platform, and how is it going to be easier for them to assess, interview, train using your virtual internship platform? And how does it improve their outcomes? Cristina, go ahead.
Okay, so there's a few ways. One way, of course, is getting face-to-face interns from us that we pre-screen, and of course, match them with our AI tools.
Okay.
Now, the other part is that they can also get them through virtual internships. So not every position, right, in the hospitality industry needs to be face-to-face. So we do have a pool of applicants from our virtual internships that would be available for them, you know, doing accounting, HR work, admin work, a lot of the things, marketing work that can be done not in person. So we can also do that. A lot of those people train through us. So we know them very well and their strengths and weaknesses. So we can really match pretty well in terms of those positions. So for all of these different positions across the different verticals, we can really match interns through this segment. And as interns, then they can see them for, let's say, 3 to 6 months, even a year in some cases, where we have students coming into the US for a year. Companies have an ability to sort of see how they work in different positions if necessary, and then make a decision after that, an informed decision whether they want this person to be in their company for the longer term.
Okay. Now, how do you, and I don't know if anyone's ever been able to solve this, because I understand how you are going to leverage your platform to assess people better. You know, when we have software development, we have these things called challenges, right? So everyone applies to this job and we say, hey, please code this. It's a simple challenge, but that helps us weed people out, right? So when we're looking for good coders, this is kind of what you do. And in your virtual training environment, you would probably recreate scenarios, right? You know, where, you know, dealing with a bad restaurant customer, you know what I mean? And they're saying this, what do you do? And, you know, you can create these scenarios to test people. So I understand that. Is there any way that you have thought about retention, right? Because there's hiring good people, and what we find is especially in the restaurant industry, the retention rate is like less than 6 months now.
Absolutely.
So how do you address that?
So the turnover rates in the hospitality industry is actually one of the reasons why we created this platform, right? There's an over 300% turnover rate. It's the highest of any industry. It's incredible.
Yes.
And it drives every manager absolutely bonkers. But we believe a lot of that stems from maybe the ability to train people appropriately. So people get frustrated in their positions because they don't always know what to do. And this can happen for a variety of reasons. If you're so busy, then maybe you cut corners and don't train completely and as much as you should. Maybe because it is busy, then we're not doing the upskilling and the retraining constantly. And therefore, we're looking to partner as well with these host companies to also do their training programs so that we can help them extend that retention and make sure that people are happy and trained appropriately for their jobs, as well as getting them ready for the next step in their careers.
Yeah, got it. Got it. So the idea is that you train people well. So when the person, and this might sound very basic and primary, but just so I can understand, if you train, your hypothesis that you've proven is the fact that if you train people well, not only are they going to be better hires, so they're going to start the job and the employer is going to be happy, but because they're trained well, they're probably going to stick around longer because they're getting the job satisfaction, correct? you know,
Correct.
because they're finding value in the work that they're doing. It's more meaningful, right? And that's
Absolutely.
right. And so I totally understand all this now, but leveraging your AR and VR on this virtual training perspective, how much more efficient is it? How much cheaper, faster is it for an employer? I have a chain of 10 restaurants in Singapore, and I want to leverage your platform. I want to know how much cheaper it is to leverage your platform than for me to personally hire people and train people. Tell me about that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So there's this question actually has two sides to it.
Yes.
So for the trainees and those interested in joining the industry but looking for more training, just to give you an idea, a face-to-face international internship just for the program alone can cost anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 without airfare or housing yet, right? So it's quite costly. And for somewhere in the Philippines, that amount equals to maybe 1 year's worth of salary to some of those families.
Sure.
So it's a big burden. For our VR training program, which we give them that same international training virtually, we charge anywhere from $30 to $150. And that's for a 2-week to a 4-month course. And the reason that we can condense it to as much as like 2 weeks for specific issues or specific topics and 4 months for an in-depth sort of look into front of the house F&B culinary is because, of course, we're spending one-on-one time and VR training with these people.
Yes.
So for them, the cost is definitely much lower. And at the end of that, then they're ready to go abroad.
Got it.
And perhaps be taken in by someone from Singapore. Now,
Sure.
On the flip side of this, for restaurants looking for interns or I guess people joining also their workforce, there actually is very minimum cost to take on an intern, right? We're only charging sort of like a subscription rate for that.
Sure. Sure.
And so it's a minimal cost, maybe it's usually about $100 a month to stay on the program and to keep interns. And then per intern that you take in, it's a small sort of processing fee of $25. So that part is quite small and definitely doable for a restaurant. And we're doing that because a lot of, standalone restaurants have a hard time with this and they can't really add much more cost.
Yeah.
So that's one way. Now, when they take in the intern as a full-time employee, then we do take a small fee for that, equivalent to like a 1 year, based on their 1 year salary.
Got it.
So
the typical,
usually
like 1 month of the 1 year salary.
about 1 month. We've done up to 2 weeks actually, just to keep it sort of affordable. But also we do make guarantees in terms of, well, if this still doesn't work out, even after, the point where they were there for an internship, then we will make sure to look for a replacement for you.
Got it. Now, as you're speaking, Cristina, I think about this on a couple of levels. So first off, as you were talking, my mind was around the fact that this can drive a little bit of income equality, right? There's a lot of income inequality right now. We read about this for those of you that, having lived in Singapore, for instance, right? We do have a situation at times where employers will take advantage of foreign talent that's coming in, right? Whether it's holding back wages or suppressing wages and stuff like that. And it breaks your heart, right? You have these people that have a lot and they're still, so I feel like what's really interesting for me, and maybe not something that needs to necessarily be pushed into the pitch, but it's this idea of income equality, right? The idea, if the person is spending $3,000 to $5,000 for training, and suddenly that turns into maybe $1,000, right? 1/5 or 1/10 the price, there could be some sort of element of transferring some of the savings onto the person, so their life is a little bit easier, right? Because we see, for instance, when people from the Filipino community and around Indonesia, when they come to Singapore, basically they're working for free for the first month, or sorry, for the first year, because they have to pay off all these other people, right? But they're the people that need the most money. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, I feel like there needs to be this equilibrium, because this idea of job satisfaction is important. Productivity is important. And I feel like what you're building, Cristina, what's really interesting for me personally is this idea of fairness in the ecosystem, right? This idea of building your model right and making it work. But the other thing that was going through my mind, Cristina, as you're building this, right, is where does this platform go, right? And again, that's when we think about investment, where things are moving, where are the elements. Where I think about this is that you have this training platform for $30 to $150, right, for people to learn and train up. And you're using VR, you're using challenges and training techniques, experiential environments where people can test their elements out. And what I see is that you could actually become that super training school, right? For, you know, that Filipino that wants to become like, you know, a flight attendant and or a cruise attendant and a restaurant attendant and they could be like, do you know what I mean? And you could do that, correct? You could create like a super, you know, like a super, you know, super trained person that can go across the board. And because your cost base is so low, they can actually be trained much better. Is that correct, Cristina?
That's definitely the vision. You know, creating a platform that is so complete that you can get all these different skills within the hospitality industry and master them virtually, so that you're prepared for whichever avenue you wish to take. And like you said, a lot of this is based on the sheer cost it takes to get trained, right? Culinary training is actually expensive. Going to culinary school is quite expensive, or any type of hospitality training. And so being able to reach for international level training is out of reach for a lot of people, because they just went into debt to try to go to school. And now to get internship training is even more money, right? So this real idea of democratizing the access and leveling the playing field is what has driven us all this time. We really kind of saw this during COVID a lot, that, hey, we don't always need to send people abroad. There are actually a lot of benefits to going virtual versus face-to-face. I saw this as one of the questions actually in the chat. Yes. And a lot of what we've seen is that there's things you can't do in a face-to-face internship. For example, you would never have an intern play around with a hotel management system. That's just not going to happen for an intern. Sure. However, in our programs, we were able to have them build it and actually see how the back end works in terms of what programs to create, what packages, how to determine pricing based on different websites. And so starting to show them very early on what really drives the business and not just getting stuck in grunt work. Sure. I think the power of that has really sort of been amazing to see the difference in the quality of the output of these interns versus maybe their 1 year abroad, yes, but daily they're not doing the in-depth work that we're able to push to them. Another thing that we've seen as one of the big differentiators is that we can also show them what can happen if we do something that, you know, we keep being told, hey, don't do that. That's wrong. You'll get hurt. It can cause accidents. Well, in the virtual world, we can actually go through that whole simulation, right?
Yeah.
You know, drop some acid on the floor, see what happens to that. Walk somewhere without looking first and slip, you know, and what happens and what do we do about it? So those are really powerful opportunities that we've seen, and we're really excited about that as well.
I think that again touches on the heartstrings, because workplace safety is a real issue. Do you know what I mean? And we don't think about that, but sadly, having we own the professional basketball team in Singapore. So on Sundays when we have games, we have a lot of the Filipino community coming in, and I've had lots of conversations with them over the years. And what's really sad to me is a lot of them are working in pain because they made that mistake. You know what I mean? Something happened while they were working, and for whatever reason, right? Insurance is one thing, but pain is still pain, right? So I feel like there's like an added bonus to this, just so people can fully understand and grab a sense on it, right? I also feel
Correct.
like the other thing to think about, right? And Cristina, you might not have this data, is that when you teach somebody from a book versus a video versus in person versus virtually with scenarios and simulations, how much more information is retained, Cristina? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that especially with the current generation, right, and all of the information that we're used to, so the retention of an immersive type of gamified content is really that much higher. Again,
exactly.
It's super hard to calculate, but I think we all can see that it would be much higher.
Yeah, because that retention element I think is important, and again, it's how you package all these components, because then it just elevates your elevator pitch that much more, right? You're solving problems worth solving. All of these things make logical sense, right? And ultimately there's an element to be played. So Cristina, would you like me to pitch your idea back to you? May I?
Yes, please.
Is that all right? So what we're going to do, we're going to simulate. You get to introduce yourself, and I'm going to talk about the virtual training lab. Okay. So over to you. Go ahead.
Hello, I am Cristina, and I am looking for solutions for training for my hotel chain. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing?
It's so fantastic that we're able to meet you here. My name is Ash Singh, and I'm part of the virtual training lab team. As you know, hiring, training workers for your hotel has been a huge challenge over the pandemic. Most of your employees might be overseas, for instance, from the Philippines, and we have now recognized that training, it costs anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000, and the total cost of training somebody could be as high as $20,000. But today we're finding that people are not sticking around, and they're not motivated and trained effectively. And so over COVID, we discovered something quite beautiful, and that is the idea of leveraging technology, virtual reality, augmented reality, where you have a bit of the real world and the virtual world together to help elevate and drive education results and help train staff in their own home. And so the idea we have today is leveraging our tools to be able to train, test, hire virtually while people are in their own homes in the Philippines. And from there, we bring the best talent to you. And what that allows us to do is allows you to find people much faster, right? For people that are, if you're looking for staff, it's also going to improve your retention rates. They're going to be more happier, and they're going to be better trained, right? And all of this will probably drive at least a 50% improvement across your hiring and training workflow. I'd love to chat to you more about how we're making this work. We've built this up. We're also looking for $1.5 million investment to make this happen. But we believe that we are going to be the future in hiring, training, and retaining hospitality talent around the world. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you very much.
Okay. So that was my pitch. I tried to bake in all of these elements. Cristina, I didn't go into the how, right? The challenges. I could have done another pitch on that. I actually did kind of 2 pitches together right now because it's a little bit longer, but I wanted the other one around the how, right? Virtual reality challenges or experiences and how we make sure they are great. You know, there's an element around that you could talk to. And this person was a hotel owner, so I could have dug deep on that to kind of make it work. But you know, all these elements, you know, the cost benefit analysis, and you know, Cristina, I feel like what you're building is just something that the world should be doing now. You know, in 2022, people shouldn't, and again, the reason for it is because it's more efficient. But what I want to kind of do is, when I just personally for me, you know, the cost burden for all this stuff, you know, that $5,000 or the $20,000, sadly, it's always given to the person that's going to be hired. Okay. And so what happens is for a year or 2 years, these people never earn anything, right? And they need the money, right? They're usually the breadwinner of their family. So I love what you're doing from a technology perspective, but personally, I love it more because I want to make sure that if you have to leave, for instance, leave the Philippines as a mother, right? And leave your family behind to go work, you know, every dollar that you earn should go back to your family on day one, ideally. Okay. Right. And so I feel like the social good that you're going to do to make this work is very, very powerful. Right. And so, Cristina, raise money from VCs, but also raise money from impact investors. Right. Be in a position where if that Filipino mother is leaving her family, she doesn't have to go for 3 years. She goes for 1 year, makes her money, comes back home, raises her kids, raises her family, and all that stuff. And I think that's beautiful, Cristina, right? And so I know I'm being a little bit sentimental on this, right? And I know that this is, you know, startup and investment and all this stuff, but it's also important for us to have a heart as well, right? Because that's what really makes the world go round, and moms make the world go round as well, right? So we need more, we need more moms, right? You know what I mean? I look at my own kids and I'm like, you know, where would my kids be without my wife? No, not very far, but that's a different conversation. Cristina, hopefully you found value today in terms of
I
the
did,
elements that we
absolutely.
discussed, right? And all of the other elements. I want to thank the crowd for joining us today. There was some interesting elements, conversation points today. I want to thank you guys for joining. All of the startups that came together today. Hopefully this was a powerful session. Again, all of these inputs, Cristina, right? Just being able to listen to the crowd, stuff that's going through my mind and my elevator pitch back. If there's 1 or 2 things that helped you through the journey, then that's a positive inflection that we want to see happen. So I want to thank you again and thank everyone again. Thank the production team, Menchie, Christine, Simran, and the rest of the gang that have helped make this a success. And we'll see you guys next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Take care, stay safe, and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Good job, Cristina. Thank you.